Hi everybody, Tracy Brown here. So this has been coming up for me, so I thought maybe it was there for you too. I've noticed in the last probably 2 weeks, but especially this week, bubbling up in myself, this feeling of, transition's coming. And sometimes, I know for me earlier on in my life when I wasn't all that attuned or connected to certainly my whole self, but especially during the years where food was such a struggle, and being in my body and being okay with my body was such a struggle, that I wouldn't understand like why I would be so nervous or frustrated with, or antsy, or sometimes irritable is a good word too, of transitions, and I've been through them many times. Like, I'm making this video right now, and it's mid-August, which means people are going back to school. They might be having transition from summer hours to fall hours or something different. So there's all kinds of reasons why somebody might be in transition right now. It doesn't have to be something outside of themselves. It could be certainly going through puberty or going through body shifts just in life. I remember for me that I felt like I needed to weigh more in my late 20s. I think honestly it felt like just from a fertility perspective. And then after, having a baby, your whole world, your whole life, your body, everything is different. And that's a transition time. New motherhood, fatherhood, as well as, and then transitioning into your later midlife years when your body changes again, and then into your more, elder years where your body changes again. And so there's all kinds of transitions that are just part of life. And I think when we have, had nervous systems that just had to do what they had to do to survive, and then that didn't work, and then we go into these different states of like, when fight or flight doesn't work, then we go into freeze, and life feels like we can't feel much, but we feel there's underlying discomforts anyway. And so that's what I meant by, like, in the past when I wasn't all that connected to myself and not comfortable with feeling feelings, and I used food to try to ameliorate the discomforts. What I notice is that once you start to squish down feelings with dieting or binging or purging or checking your weight on a scale, or with your clothes, or counting calories or macros, or whatever behaviors we use, which I call that food and body talk, what we are trying to do is just manage feelings that feel uncomfortable. But the tragic side effect is that we also smush down and freeze away feeling good. And we smush down our agency, which is feeling like we have some being in charge of our lives, and we smush down resiliency and joy and humor, even sometimes, with things that are that we could maybe take it more lightly. It's hard to do all those things when we are using food in any kind of way. And I say that in a way of like, I know it's a strategy. It's just a defensive mechanism, and we don't need to blame ourselves for it, but it's time to be able to help ourselves by recognizing that food. And let's say I'll just use a good example, like letting go of self-care. So let's say you're a student and the semester's getting ready to start, and you can feel yourself hyped up. And if you haven't noticed that maybe your pattern when the unknown strikes is that you forget to eat breakfast, or you don't plan, you forget to plan that you're gonna get hungry later and you don't bring snacks, or you don't take time to get groceries, or you let go of your routines that feel good to you, or that feel calming or safe or relaxing. You let those go and get into, oh my gosh, the house is burning down and I've got to run. And or it gets into, oh my gosh, this is so overwhelming, and we just kind of don't get going, and we procrastinate or we freeze up. And so just being able to access and notice that pattern will be really, really helpful. And it gives you like a moment of space to decide, like, hey, like, how do I want to feel here? And maybe it can't be these grand big gestures. So maybe you can't cook from scratch all your meals every day when the first week or two your semester gets going, but knowing that, like, wait a minute, I still need to be well nourished, because I know if I don't, I get into a restrict and binge or deprivation driven eating pattern, which feels bad, which distracts me from what I want to be accomplishing. But it also kind of feeds that old neural pathway that says, like, oh my gosh, I feel some feelings and I don't know what's happening, so I've got to survive. And we want to get out of survival mode. We do. And so I have a couple suggestions for us today for that. Is one, recognize how far we've come, that we're even watching videos like this and talking about this topic. And maybe today, start with noticing your patterns for when you feel like, oh, my new job is happening, or the new semester is happening, or my kids are going back to school, and you know, they're going to have to get up early, and I find myself not eating breakfast. Instead, like, okay, so what is one thing I'd like to see happen instead of that, instead of those old patterns? And it can be small. So maybe it is that you cook more ahead, maybe, and save up for, let's say you cook ahead and it's simple things like rice and beans that can be made into different recipes, or it's chicken that you shred up in different recipes, 10 different ways, whatever it is. And make that okay, that you don't have maybe a ton of variety this next couple weeks. That's fine. The goal isn't sometimes perfection. The goal is I'm building new little pathways that make this year nourishment happen, versus in the past it never had. And then the next time I remember how good that feels and I want to take it the next step. 2, something that's really important is always compassion. And it's hard to do that when we have a inner critic and sometimes a perfectionistic mind, but it's remembering, like, oh, wait a minute, those are just aspects of me, that's not all of me. And if you can put those parts of yourself to service to your good with your food, that would be really helpful, which is, okay, I can use my perfectionism to kind of plan ahead a little bit, or I can use my critic to kind of, like, keep me in a line, or sometimes that helps, or sometimes it's even better just to say, everybody F off. I need to, nothing has to be perfect, it just has to get done. Or maybe all of it doesn't have to get done, and that doesn't mean anything about me. So that goes for food, or any other chronic kind of thought pattern you have that makes you feel bad, to be honest. So I'm hoping this video was helpful around the idea of transitions. It's going to happen to us. And being able to accept, like, yeah, transitions maybe are harder for me, and I need more self-care and more awareness and not less. So anyway, take that into account with whatever food or body image struggle you might have, and say, okay, what is one thing that I can do to interrupt that pattern? How can I be more aware of that in my mind, in my heart, in my body, and notice those sensations, and be with that just a little bit more. All right, thanks so much for watching. Take care.